What's up, PLEBHEADS? I'm Neo, and I'm joined here tonight by my brother,
Mr. fucking YouTube, baby.
Mr. YouTube. What are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about Children of Morta.
Now, this is a brand new,
well, pixel art style roguelite.
Okay.
ARPG, basically, action role-playing game.
Absolutely.
So, you've got a lot of good things going on here, and you guys know, as soon as they say pixel art, roguelite, character progression, dungeon crawler, 2D, you got me. I'm buying it.
Got a straight chub, dog.
$21.99. I paid full price for this motherfucker. I don't care.
And how rare is that for you to actually day one just a random indie game anymore?
Well, it's pretty rare. So I did some research. I always want to make sure it's going to be something I enjoy. But, you know, again, price, irrelevant at the end of the day. Sure. Am I going to enjoy my time with the game? Am I going to get my money's worth? That's the question I always ask myself.
Very true. Very true.
So, let's talk about this a little bit. You guys can see the graphics for yourself here on the gameplay and decide if you like it. You know I'm a big fan of this. I'm thinking, you know, you want to kind of think Hyperlight Drifter and Moonlighter. That's kind of the vibe I get here. From a graphics perspective, even from a gameplay perspective in a lot of cases. So, you've got an overarching story here of this family that lives on Mount Morta. You've got some corruption that's taken over the world, and they're tasked with stopping it. Basic story. What is cool is that each of the characters in the family get story time, so to speak, right? And you kind of learn about the characters. Every time you die, you go back to your home base, right? And then you get some more story explained to you and, you know, shown to you, which I really, really like. When you play a roguelite, you know you're going to die, right? It's part of the experience. And when you die, for me, it's really important that I feel that it's worthwhile and that there's something to gain or grow each time.
Well, and I think it's really important that in a game style such as this, you have that progression, that kind of, you know, again, character feedback loop. You want to feel like what you're doing matters, is important, and you're not just wasting your time.
Absolutely. And I can't stress enough how excellent this game is on progression. Okay? This is the key for me.
Yep.
You have individual character progression, which basically happens in the dungeon. You get experience with everything you do, basically. And, you know, you grow and you get a skill point. So that character individually grows stronger, right?
Love it.
They also get global buffs, so to speak. As every maybe 4 levels or whatever it is, they unlock a passive level or a passive ability that affects all your characters.
Well, that's really nice.
When you go back to the house after each run, you are able to purchase additional global abilities that affect all of your characters, whether it's extra health, extra damage.
Kind of like familial buffs.
Yeah, extra, you know, what would they call critical chance, shit like that.
Okay.
So again, I can't stress enough how excellent this game is with its sense of progression. I want you guys to think Rogue Legacy when you think about the way this game works for progression. In Rogue Legacy, you know, you die, and then you take over another randomly generated character and you can buy upgrades that apply to all of your subsequent runs. That's kind of what you got going here, right? Now, each of the time you play as a character, you play as a set character, right? You've got John with the sword and the shield. You got Kevin here with the bandit knives. You got Linda and Archer. And you have 6 different characters. So each one has their own play style. And they each have a basic square, you know, attack. They have a heavy attack or special attack that has a cooldown. And then they also have another ability on L1 as well. So you're constantly getting new things to use with each of these characters.
I like that a lot.
And in the dungeons themselves, you're also finding new things. You're finding temporary buffs, like, you know, you'll collect more gold, or you'll collect more experience, or
critical hit chance.
Hit chance will go up for
you get
temporary
a nice
time.
Exploding barrier.
An exploding barrier around you, a shield, stuff like that. You're gonna find
relics.
chests. You're gonna find relics.
Did we find some pins?
We found out charms.
Charms.
So again, there's like so many different things within each dungeon as well that you can get to help yourself. And again, this is what I'm talking about, where you almost have like this game that gives the permanent buffs, and then each dungeon gives its dungeon-only run buffs, right? Or it's that run only that you're going to get that for.
For the entirety of the run. Though.
For the entirety of the run, yes. Well, but then you also have some things like the Obelisk that count down.
True.
So again, there's just a whole bunch of different things that are going on each run. It keeps it interesting. It keeps every run unique. It keeps me coming back for more. I don't know if I'd necessarily say the combat is spectacularly varied. You know, basically, if you're playing as a hack and slash character, you're getting up close and personal, and you're hacking your way through these guys, right? If you're playing as a range character, you're evading and you're using your range, okay? So I don't necessarily know if each run necessarily presents a spectacularly varied combat necessarily, but the amount of different things that you're getting during each run, and the fact that you're getting an upgrade just about each run, whether it's to that specific character with a skill point upgrade, or you're getting enough gold to buy a global bonus, it feels like you're always doing something useful and relevant.
Nice.
And I cannot stress enough to you guys how important that is when I review a game like this, okay? And for me, it's probably the selling point of the game for me is that I feel that I'm constantly making progress. And having the story kind of told to me in those little bits and pieces with each death says, oh, I died. Okay, I'll discover more about the characters. Now I'm going to sit back here for a couple seconds, and the narrator's really cool. He's got kind of that deep, like, kind of...
The sun had fallen over Mount Morta.
There you go.
And Kevin was practicing his new fighting style.
So that deep, melodramatic voice.
Yeah.
And so it kind of takes you out. It's like, okay, hey, I just had a really intense run. I'm going to get my, 10 seconds here, 15 seconds. I'll learn something about the characters.
And
I'll level out. I'll make an upgrade, and I'll go back in for round 2. I like that pacing. Again, is it for absolutely everybody? No, it's not. I'll tell you that right now.
But this game style also isn't for absolutely everybody.
But understand the game style that you have here. You have a roguelite. You have a game that goes from death to death, and you get a little bit stronger each time. You've got to really like that style of game, because that's exactly what this is. You're not going to be, level 1-ing this. I can tell you that for a fact, because you're going to get overrun.
Can we just take maybe just a moment to appreciate the insane skill I display here on this part?
Well, fine. We will all appreciate Neo's incredible abilities here.
It was a nice... See, here's the thing. It was a nice just example of how if you try to just sit there and beat everything to death, you're probably
using those traps to really good use here.
You're probably not going to survive. But, you just keep running. You hit and run. And I had my little melee guy in there just picking at him. And I just kept using, and I kited him on those circles. And, of course, I knew I had to get you back in. But you had used a charm that prevented me from rolling and dodging. So I was really...
Wait, that was me that prevented you from doing it, too?
Yeah, that was that Blackfoot charm. I could no longer dodge.
Whoops.
Yeah, so I was very... I
didn't know the charms applied to both, so apparently they do. Or those abilities applied to both.
Well, I didn't see myself able to roll. How about that?
Yeah, wow. Okay. And again, we didn't mention this, but let's talk. I think this was obvious from the gameplay, but this has couch co-op.
Which is really nice.
There's going to apparently be online co-op added in a future update.
Amazing.
Again, don't want to say that it's there until it's there, but it's allegedly being added. But right now it supports couch co-op, which for me is something I have been looking for. There's been kind of a little bit of a lack of just fun two-player games. Couch co-op games you can play together. And this one apparently has it.
It's a cool example of some of the
enemies. I forgot I couldn't dodge.
Yeah, a cool example of some of the enemies. You can fight that giant ogre there.
And he's a ferocious ogre.
Yeah, a ferocious ogre. My bad. And so this is what happens when you fail during a run. You get your little end screen and shows you how many enemies you defeated, how much gold or more. What is that called? Morv that you collected, how many gemstones you found, and how many points you healed total. So, really like that. Good kind of overview, kind of caps everything off, and then
you get back to the house and you get a little story revealed to you.
I like it.
Which is really cool. So I do like that very much. Again, it does support couch co-op, so you and a friend can get in there and go at it, or you can have you can play it single player. But when I look at this game as a whole package, I really like the pacing and I like what they're presenting here. I really do. Excellent progression. Very kind of family-based story, so it kind of gives you a little bit more to maybe grip onto maybe than something like, say, Dead Cells, right? Which kind of was relatively, didn't really have a really sentimental story, I guess I would say. This kind of just has a different tone to it from a story perspective. And then, of course, you can get your upgrades after every run, which I really, really like. Again, much different pacing here than in a game like Dead Cells. If you just want the balls to the wall speed and in and out and upgrade and you're on to the next run type of thing like you had with Dead Cells, this probably isn't maybe for you. It is a slower pace. Maybe think a little more like Diablo, at least when you get in the dungeons, just without the loot and the weapon and armor changes. But for $21, guys, this is a pretty good package so far. There are talks about adding additional content. I really hope we see it. I mean, you can see some of the art style here is just flipping phenomenal. I mean, it's kind of cool to come back to the overworld like this after being down in the dungeons and just seeing like the contrast right between like that amazing mountain landscape and viewpoint, and then you get down in the dungeons kind of murky and kind of corrupted and nasty.
Very cool. So one thing that I think that where this game really shines, like you were talking before, is the upgrades, right? So you have the Book of Rhea, you have the workshop. Tell us a little bit more about the game's upgrade system.
Well, Book of Rhea and the workshop again provide those global upgrades, whether it's to your character's movement speeds, critical hit chance, armor or health or whatever, attack damage. And again, that's to every character that you play as. It's not just to one character. Okay. And I really like that. Cool. And then on top of that, you've got your upgrades that are happening to each character along the way in each skill. And you can actually see along the top there at the character select screen, we have 2 passive, consistent, constant things that are happening here for our characters. Okay? We had one that was giving us more overall health and one that was giving us more overall speed.
I like that.
And I really, really like that. Now, there's, 20 of them in total or so? 12, 20, 24 of them, whatever?
I like
4 for each character. So if we can unlock all those, we're going to have one badass family.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point. Remember, family's stronger together.
It is. And I like that concept, right?
It's
the family kind of fighting the evil together and everybody working together and kind of banding together. And,
I love it.
And supporting each other. It's a cool concept. And the game plays well.
Yeah, I didn't notice, in the 5 or 6 runs that I've done with you now, I didn't really notice a lot. It's made on the Unity engine. I didn't notice a lot that made me say, oh, that was really bad. That was really sticky. Or
we had really, the one item description was stuck on the screen. That's the one thing I noticed in one of our runs when we went to the merchant and looked at some of his stuff that he had.
But it did go away.
But it did. So it was there for longer than it should have been, but it did go away after a time. So one other thing to mention here. You have your overarching story, right, where you're basically trying to stop the corruption and, clear these caves, basic whatever. But within each of these dungeons are little side quests as well. I've rescued a dog that was, trapped. So we rescued him, and now we're trying to get some plants to heal him. And we've rescued a merchant that now shows up in the dungeon to help us. So I really like that as well. Again, it's adding things with each run so that things don't get stale, because you are going to be grinding through these levels multiple times.
More depth to the story, more depth to the dungeons, and even your, like you said, your overworld where you do all your upgrades and stuff. I really like
so
that.
When you go back to your house now after each run, you can see the little dog that you rescued. He's laying on the bed waiting for you to get him these, herbs or whatever to get him healed. So
that's so cool.
I really like that. Now here's another type of room where you've got a chance-based thing, right? It's like, okay, If I step on the right thing, I'm going to get a bonus. If I don't, I'm going to end up having to fight some enemies. Yep. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So again, it's just keeping it interesting enough that you don't mind going back through the same kind of basic dungeon layout. They are randomly generated. They do have different layouts each time you go into them. But again, it's not super, super different, right? I mean, you've got the same tile sets. It's not, super
It's
unique.
a very Diablo 2 dungeon-esque setup.
Yeah.
It really is.
But you look at your character movement, you look at your character attacks and stuff, really fluid. Yeah. I think that's really important to mention. The movement in this game, I love it. It's weightless. It's quick. It's responsive. That's really important to me. And
especially
this game
in a
nails
game
it.
where death is so easy.
Where you need to be able to move and get out of the way because you do get swarmed. You can see here 10, 12 enemies at a time are coming towards you. You got to kind of make sure you're in the right advantageous position. You don't want to have, all those enemies on different sides of you or you're going to take big damage.
For sure.
Again, guys, we've played about maybe 5 to 6 hours of this so far. Kind of just getting our feet wet with it, but our initial impressions here are very positive. I really can't recommend this enough. From a roguelite standpoint, especially if you've got, a friend to play with, a brother, sister, girlfriend, whatever, that's going to play couch co-op with you, this is a ton of fun. I'm having a fucking blast with this thing.
Yeah, when you first mentioned it to me, I found myself thinking, oh, great, another pixel art game for, Jdog. It's be another, one of the same, and when we got in, we actually did a few runs together. I think it was last night when we were first getting our hands on it together. I have to say, I was really pleasantly surprised by what I experienced.
When you start out, basically you start with the character and they have literally one attack, right? So it does feel very repetitive at first. So you've got to kind of grind through that, so to speak, right? So you take a new character in, he's just got level 0. All he does is his basic attack. So you grind through that a little bit, you get a level or two, and then all of a sudden you're starting to get some abilities, you're starting to get some additional attacks, and you're starting to be a viable choice. And I think that's what's really fun.
And I will say, you see your character using that dagger throw, me using that kind of sword drop ability a lot. There is definitely a strategy of when and when not to use those abilities. That is, you can say whatever you want. Oh, it's so simple, it's so basic. I think it is 100% a key strategy when you play a game like this, to use those at the right time and make sure the enemies are in the right position. So I really like that aspect of it. Again, a little more simple, but I think it adds another layer of depth to that combat.
Well, there is something addictive about simplicity as well. Again, this keeps you coming back, right? I don't think there's anything necessarily complex enough in here where it's like, hey, oh my God, we did that and I never want to do it again, right?
Yeah. Oh shit.
Because you're going to be doing this again. You're going to be doing some of this stuff over and over. So I think that's just the roguelite genre in general, right? As you try to unlock more. But again, for me, I don't mind doing it over and over if I'm getting an upgrade. Think Sundered, think Dead Cells, think games like that. Think Rogue Legacy. Again, you went through that castle how many fucking times? But, hey, I kept getting upgrades. I kept getting something. And for me, that was really, really powerful in that game. Rogue Legacy is one of my favorites of all time. And this game is shaping up to join it in my book.
All right, Mr. YouTube, give me your final thoughts here on Children of Morta moving forward.
At $21.99, guys, this is a buy. I'm going to tell you right now, this is a absolute pleasant surprise. Again, to pick up a random game you just kind of see on the PlayStation Store and looks reasonably interesting. It's pixel art, so I got to check it out. And all of a sudden you go from looking at it to buying it and praying for the best and being pleasantly surprised and having a game that pretty much not only lives up to expectations, but exceeds them.
As I said, blows them out of the water.
And keeps me thinking, I want to play more. And that is a really, really powerful thing. When you talk about roguelites, right? The key statement you always want to hear is just one more run. And I've been saying that an awful lot the last couple days. So that's a massively positive statement when you hear that about this game and you hear that about a roguelite. just one more run, just one more run. Let me just get one more upgrade. Because you just feel like you're just almost powerful enough. And we actually beat the first mini-boss finally here a couple runs before this one. And it was a great feeling because he had been kicking our ass. All last night he kicked our ass, couldn't beat him. And we finally got powerful enough to where we could take him down. So it was a great feeling. And again, it gives you that little beta high that keeps you coming back.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, at the end of the day, I think Children of Morta is shaping up to be a pretty cool roguelite. But we want to know what the plebs think down in the comments. Give us your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts. And if you've played Children of Morta, let us know. Like the video if you enjoyed the honest breakdown, discussion, and initial impressions here. And we'll see each and every one of you right here next time for more content like this. And
definitely, if you have another person to play couch co-op with, you're going to have a ton of fun with this game. $21.99, absolutely recommended. You're welcome.
GG, you plebs.